All right, I'm picking up from my last video where I'm reading through the New World Encyclopedia article on Lewis Carroll, and I came to the part where it starts talking about Alice in Wonderland, and since it's a large portion, and it's almost like, kind of like a separate topic in a way, so I thought I'd end that video and start this one. So here we're going to just read through Alice's Adventures in Wonderland in the New World Encyclopedia. So it's the New World Encyclopedia. You can see the URL up here if you want. So here we go. Where are we? There we go. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is a work of children's literature which is generally acclaimed as Dodgson's masterpiece. That name, if you missed the first part, this is Charles Lutwidge Dodgson, aka his pen name Lewis Carroll. So it tells the story of a girl named Alice who falls down a rabbit hole into Wonderland, a fantasy realm populated by talking playing cards, anthropomorphic creatures, and other fantastical beings. The tale is fraught with satirical allusions to Dodgson's friends and to life in the United Kingdom during the mid-19th century in general. The Wonderland described in the story is a place where logic and rules in reality are turned upside down in ways that have made the story enduringly popular with adults as well as children. And what's interesting is, like logic and rules and reality are turned upside down. And it's kind of interesting when you read the book, just remembering that Lewis Carroll was an English author, mathematician, logician, clergyman, and photographer. So, there's a lot of logic-related conversation in the dream world in Wonderland. And so it kind of makes sense because he's a logician and a mathematician and everything else. Okay. In ways that have made the story enduringly popular with adults as well as children. And we've got this little illustration of the Duchess and Alice and her flamingo. That is one ugly Duchess. The book is often referred to by the abbreviated title Alice in Wonderland. This alternate title was popularized by the numerous film and television adaptations of the story produced over the years. History. Here's the good stuff. Alice was first published on July 4, 1865, exactly 3 years after the Dodgson and the Reverend Robinson Duckworth rowed in a boat up the River Thames with 3 little girls. Lorena Charlotte Liddell, age 13, prima in the book's prefatory verse. Alice Pleasance Liddell, age 10, secunda in the prefatory verse. Edith Mary Liddell, age 18, tertia in the prefatory verse. That's cool because that prefatory poem before the story begins is kind of difficult to understand. And so this makes sense because they were talking about prima, secunda, and tertia. You're like, what the heck is that? And they're talking about rowing as well. So this makes so much sense that some of these ideas came during this incident when Dodgson and Duckworth were rowing with these 3 girls. And so that's why the poem is talking about oars and rowing and stuff. And it's a nice little poem once you realize what it's actually talking about. The journey had started at Folly Bridge near Oxford, ending 5 miles away in the village of Godstow. To while away time, the Reverend Dodgson told the girls a story that, not so coincidentally, featured a bored little girl named Alice who goes looking for an adventure. The girls loved the story so much that they asked Dodgson to write it down for them. He eventually did so, and on November 26, 1864, he presented Alice, little Alice, not the Alice in the story, I guess probably the same girl, even though he denied it. But 1864, he presented Alice with the first manuscript version of the story, which was titled Alice's Adventures Underground. According to Dodgson's diaries, in the spring of 1863, he gave the unfinished manuscript of Alice's Adventures Underground to his friend and mentor, George MacDonald, whose children loved it. And George MacDonald had his writings had a significant influence on C.S. Lewis. His children loved it. On MacDonald's advice, Dodgson decided to submit Alice for publication. Before he had even finished the manuscript for Alice Liddell, he was already expanding the 18,000-word original to 35,000 words, most notably adding the episodes about the Cheshire Cat and the Mad Tea Party. Oh, it's most notably, I thought. Yeah, anyway. In 1865, most notably. Didn't say most probably. I was thinking most probably. But yeah, most notably. Yeah, in 1865, Dodgson's tale was published as Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. The entire print run sold out quickly. Alice was a publishing sensation, beloved by children and adults alike. Among its first avid readers were the young Oscar Wilde and Queen Victoria. The book hasn't been out of print since. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland has been translated into over 50 languages, including Esperanto and Faroese, whatever that is. There have now been over 100 editions of the book, as well as countless adaptations in other media, especially theater and film. And then we got a plot summary, which Wikipedia plot summaries are always lousy, but I guess I'll just read it anyway because it's the last thing we got here. In the novel, a girl named Alice is bored while on a picnic with her older sister. Everything changes when, idly looking around, she sees a passing white rabbit dressed in a waistcoat and muttering, "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear." The rabbit, who seems to be in a dire hurry, quickly scurries by, and Alice, without a second's pause, follows him down a rabbit hole. As soon as she enters the rabbit hole, Alice finds herself floating down into dream world, and like anything she could ever imagine, as she attempts to follow the rabbit, she has a myriad of adventures. She grows to gigantic size and later shrinks to the size of a miniature. She meets a group of small animals stranded in a sea of tears. She gets trapped in a rabbit's house when her body spontaneously enlarges again. She meets a baby, which changes into a pig, and a cat, which disappears, leaving only a smile behind. She goes to a never-ending tea party run by a lunatic in a hat. Yeah, that's what the Mad Hatter is. He's a lunatic in a hat. I always thought that there must be something, like a hatter must be something. But anyway, that's funny. She goes to the shore and meets a griffin and a wisecracking turtle. And finally, she attends the trial of the Knave of Hearts, who has been accused of stealing tarts. After all of these fantastic adventures, Alice reaches the end of Wonderland and wakes up back with her sister. That is such a lifeless, dead, boring summary. Like, I don't know if there's any way you could suck the life out of it any worse. But that said, that's how Wikipedia summaries go. And then we got a note, we got some references, external links, and credits, New World Encyclopedia. All right, good stuff. It's interesting. It helps your understanding of the Alice books, and I think it's just really interesting. I especially think it's interesting just how much influence there was from George MacDonald. After I read this earlier today, I went and looked up George MacDonald, and now I kind of want to read some of MacDonald's most well-known stuff, just because the name is familiar from reading and listening to stuff about C.S. Lewis, because C.S. Lewis was hugely influenced by MacDonald. So the name's familiar. And then I found out as well, he also was a big impact on Tolkien, and he's Lewis Carroll's friend who encouraged him to get it published. So makes this guy more and more sound like somebody I want to read. And he's got a couple of, there's like 2 or 3 of his like most well-known, and I'm thinking to read through them, and I might, the one of them I think I'll probably just read out loud for the fun of it. All right, see you in the next one.